Oh, hey, Wonder World. Happy fucking Tuesday. 100 Wonderful Ways coming in hot today. Hey, did you guys know that my podcast, Real Unicorns Don't Wear Pants, is ranked in the top 1.5% of all fucking podcasts? Isn't that fucking bananas? Like, that's absolutely fucking crazy. Back in bartender land, there was always a running joke where people were like, Nicole, you need to start a podcast. And it was with me and this other bartender that I worked with, my near and dear Annalisa, that my daughter lovingly called Sleeza. Um, but me and Annalisa, basically had like a fucking talk show for every fucking Friday night that we were working together. It was absolutely hilarious, and people just came for it. I mean, like, we had that bar packed in the motherfucking nines. Like, it was three deep all night long. People just love the Nicole and Annalisa show, right? And people kept telling us all the time, like, bitch, you should start a podcast. You should start a podcast, right? Well, I didn't when I was in bartender land, but I do have one now, and my podcast is about 4 years old. We have a couple hundred episodes and we've had really cool guest episodes. But it's been predominantly like solo episodes for the first couple of years of just me finding my voice and really being able to speak. But something that was very unintentional in the beginning, right, was something where I didn't realize that people were actually going to buy because of the podcast. Okay. Like, my coach told me, he's like, hey, you're funny. You should start a podcast. And I was like, people have been telling me that my whole life. And he's like, yeah, you should really do that. And I was like, cool. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do that. And so, like, he sent over like this very like simple list of instructions of how to start a podcast. And I was like, okay, like, I just did it because action takers get results, right? I just fucking did it. And I never even knew how to look at the analytics. I never knew anything about like, the behind the scenes of how many downloads you were getting or how you were ranked. I didn't know any of that shit literally until like 2 years ago. Like, I just recorded up an episode every single week and I posted it. I put it out to you guys. I sent it out on my email. I put it in the Facebook group, and people told me it was funny. Like, that's it. Like, I didn't really think about it. I didn't really understand what I was actually starting. Like, I didn't get it. I was just doing what I was told. Every once in a while I do that. And it absolutely worked out for me. But I've learned a lot in the past 4 years of creating podcasts on how to turn podcasts into something that is actually profitable, so that people are digesting your content, binging your podcast episodes, and investing in your high ticket, premium ticket programs. A lot of my 30K clients actually come direct from the podcast. So, like, oh my God, this person introduced me to your podcast. I listened to every fucking episode. How can I buy? Right? Like, that's how that transition goes. Because my podcast is really connecting, cultivating, and priming for the conversion. So let's talk about public speaking secrets that you need to both run your own podcast, but also to go on other people's podcasts. Okay. So first and foremost, let's all just say hey. Everybody say hey when you're popping on. Tell the whole audience here you're in front of 35,000 entrepreneurs. Tell the whole audience here what you do, who the fuck you are, and why the fuck we should listen to you, because we want to get more eyes on your offers. And of course, people come in here and they watch these replays. So we want to make sure that you're getting some love and attention here. So go ahead and share that in the comments right now. Okay. Again, action takers get results, all of the things. But also, I would love to know a little bit about your thoughts and feelings on podcasts. Do you have a podcast? If you do have a podcast, drop that in the comments for sure. Like, let's get some downloads, right? Okay. Are you thinking about starting a podcast? Is this something that's ever occurred to you? Do you have a bartender story where someone's always told you that you're funny and you should fucking do a podcast? Is this something that you want to go on other people's podcasts? Have you gone on a lot of podcasts? Tell me about your podcasting experience, right? Nicole says podcasting is something I definitely want to do this year. Yeah, I mean, this is something where the only regret I have about my fucking podcast is that I wish I would have started it sooner. Right? Like, I wish I would have started the podcast literally the first week of my business. Like, I wish I would have done it sooner. I didn't know it was like a thing. Like, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't really understand, right? But I wish that I would have had that chronicled so much earlier than I did. I started my podcast after I had my first six-figure month. So my business was 8 months old. And like, I was in the middle of my first six-figure month when I fucking launched this thing. So I was very much in that transformational energy. I was in that transition point of like never going back to bartender land, right? Like, this was not a fluke anymore. And it was becoming something that I was actually fucking committed to. And so that time period, like, I wish that I had everything before that, like leading up to it. But I will tell you, listening to the first episodes is so cringy. Like, listening back to your past self, you're like, oh my God, bitch, what are you talking Right? We're so judgmental of that. But my past self is somebody who ushers people up through this channel. So I want to remind you of something, okay? It's not supposed to be perfect. People want to watch you change. They want to watch you become the version of you that you are today. When I started that podcast, there was no way that I could have possibly known that I was going to make $1 million in my first year. There was no way that I could have possibly known that I was going to build this fucking empire of people, right? That I would eventually go on to help so many people create this wonder ripple and have this like crazy fucking business. I had no idea that that's what was going to happen, right? Now, of course, my higher self did, but my current self, I was just being funny. I was just talking on the podcast. I was just shooting the shit and fucking sharing some bartender stories. There's some raw and real fucking very uncomfortable truths over there. All the skeletons in the closet are definitely like on display inside of the podcast. Like when you're listening, you're like, damn, this bitch is crazy, right? There was a lot of crazy things that happened in my life. And so it was a great place to like chronicle those things, but also it was a great place for me to really find my voice. Now I do a lot of speaking, right? I go on other people's podcasts all the time. I've been on, big podcasts like Entrepreneurs on Fire, my episode on 1 million downloads, right? Like I have been able to get in front of way bigger audiences by going on other people's podcasts. But there's a couple things that you really need to know when it comes to the public speaking side of podcasts. We're not going to go into the tech and all of that kind of shit. What we're going to talk about today is your voice, right? And what the fuck you're saying on a podcast, how you're saying it, whether it's your podcast episodes or somebody else's. There's a couple key components that you need to successfully lace in order for your podcast episodes, whether they're on somebody else's podcast or on your own, to actually create clients. Okay. So raise your hand. Raise your hand if you would like podcasting to be profitable. Okay, raise your hand. Like you got 2 hands, right? Raise those fucking hands, because the fact of the matter is that it can be fun to go on podcasts, right? It's fun to go on podcasts. It's fun to start your own podcast, but ultimately we're entrepreneurs. We should be treating our business like businesses. And that means that we should be creating profitable podcasts. Okay. We should be making money with this. We should be, attracting clients. We should be pre-closing clients. We should be getting people over their objections during this process. So I'm going to let you in on some really fucking key secrets that it took me 4 fucking years to learn. So lean in, right? Lean in, buckle up, bitches. Let's get this dialed in for you so that you start closing clients with your podcast episodes. Okay. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you are going on podcasts, even if you have your own. Okay, guys, this is number one. Okay, is that it doesn't matter how good your talk is if you're not putting it out there, right? So number one, can you commit to going on a podcast a week? You guys, I promise you, your complete landscape of your business will absolutely transform if you can commit to going on just one podcast that takes about an hour, right? So 1 hour of podcast a week in somebody else's audience. If you can commit to doing this for 52 weeks, right? Like think about how good your press kit's going to look. Okay, think about how much better you're going to get at speaking. Think about how many backlinks you're going to have in so many different places that are all leading into people joining your email list. This is a massively important thing for you to be doing. Okay, as an entrepreneur, please go on podcasts. Okay, go on podcasts, right? Like when you're doing this and you're committed to this, I promise you, you're going to get so much better. You're going to get your reps in, right? Okay, you're going to find your fucking voice with this. It's going to make you better at your podcast, and it's going to make you better at all public speaking opportunities, including, pitches, right? You doing your live events, going on other people's summits. It's going to make you better on live stages as well. Okay, so go on podcasts. If you don't listen to anything else I say today, please listen to this. Okay. Go on podcasts. This is really fucking important. So can you say it? I'm going to go on podcasts. Can you commit to that? Come on, put your money where your mouth is, guys. Be the kind of person who does what you say you're going to fucking do. Okay, so we're going to go on podcasts. What you need to bring to the podcast is a free gift. Okay. It's important that you have this. When you're going into somebody else's audience, it's a little bit like bringing a bottle of wine when you go over to somebody else's house for dinner. It's just good etiquette. So you're going to bring a gift for their audience, and this gift should come in the form of an opt-in. Okay, so people are going to opt into that from their audience. This is how you build your audience from other people's audiences. If you don't have a free gift with a fucking opt-in, you are missing the fucking point. Okay, you want to build up those audiences. This is the way you do it. So we have, for example, the 100 Wonderful Ways. Okay, we have the 100 Wonderful Ways for you to get more and better clients, right? It's at nonstopnotifications.com. If you go to nonstopnotifications.com, you will get this lead magnet series. That lead magnet series puts you into my main email campaign. That means that you're going to join this Facebook group. That's going to mean that you're going to start digesting my core content. And that means that you're going to fucking get hit with all of my podcast episodes, right? So you're going to be in my world, in my funnel, and becoming indoctrinated into the Wonder Way and becoming a unicorn as you grow your unicorn horn because you heard me on somebody else's fucking podcast today. Okay, so we've got to have a free gift and we have to have a gift that people want. Okay, it's got to be something sexy for their audience. And so you want to be able to pitch that to their audience. So everybody's audience is a little bit different. So that means before you go on somebody else's podcast, what should you do? Research their audience, right? Go listen to an episode, get a feel for, how they run that podcast episode so that you're showing up in such a way that's energetically aligned with the audience that they already fucking have. Doesn't that just make sense? That's just the easy thing to do, right? So we definitely want to make that commitment there of knowing their audience. So for example, if I'm going on a big giant podcast like Entrepreneurs on Fire, I know everybody in the audience is entrepreneurs. I know that guy has millions of followers, right? So I'm not going to be like hyper specific. Okay. I'm going to be kind of general and be a little bit more like open. I'm not going to, sub niche myself because I want everybody in that audience to come and opt in. Okay, so I want to be a little bit more general. I don't want to talk about unicorns and buttholes, right? I want to talk about 7 figures in my first year. I want to talk about the success patterns that I've had, the mindset shifts that I need to make along the way, and how my strategies are different than other entrepreneurs. Because I know that a lot of other client attraction coaches are going on that podcast. So I've got to set myself apart without narrowing my niche. Okay, so I'm thinking about this audience. Now, if I go on to a different podcast that say it's all women, right? Every single person on this audience list is women, and they are all women who are in their late 40s to early 50s. So they're all in the space of, going through their career and then becoming entrepreneurs after that, right? So they're transitioning. If that's the case, then when I present the 100 Wonderful Ways, I'm going to present this gift as someone, it's like, hey, you don't have to be super techy to do this, right? Like this is not something where you like the kids, you don't have to do it like the kids, right? You don't have to be up on all the coolest trends. You can actually use 100 wonderful ways to close clients. Like you don't have to do it in this really trendy fucking do a reel about it every single day, right? In fact, there's more tried and true classic, strategy-based marketing tools that you can use that will close higher level clients easier, right? So I'm going to present this as an opportunity for this specific target demographic market. Does that make sense? Okay, so we want to think about who we're talking to for that free gift. This is going to get more people opting in. So you don't want to use a general script. And I know a lot of people are going to tell you to put together a general script, and I'm going to tell you that's bullshit. Do not put together a general script. Understand how your free gift benefits this person's audience before you go on their podcast. Are we tracking? Does this make sense? Are we following along here? Yes? Connecting the little unicorn dots? Okay, good. Okay, so now, once we have that free gift in place, now we need to be able to have something where a same thing, we're thinking about that specific audience, where we're able to present who the fuck we are and why the fuck people should listen to us. Okay. If you cannot create authority coming onto that podcast, no one's going to listen to your episode. Okay. And that is that hook piece. Now, the host is responsible for hooking people to a certain extent. Okay. They know their audience better than you do. And so they create that little bit of a hook line that they know that people are going to be interested in you as a guest but you want to support that hook line. Okay. You want to get people really enthralled with you really, really quickly. Okay. There's a big mistake that I see like a lot of people making when they're going on being a guest on podcasts is that they kind of start real slow. Right? They go into this thing where they want to give you a whole bunch of backstory and a lot of prove-it energy instead of just leaving that fucking very first nugget, that very first result of who the fuck they are and why the fuck people should listen to them. Like that piece needs to be put in place immediately, right? So when a host comes on, it's like, okay, Nicole, like tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm not going to be like, once upon a time, I was born in 1984, okay, because nobody cares. And be like, okay, well, Jim, the truth is I made $1 million in my first year after being a fired ass bartender. So literally in one sentence, your ears are like, bing. You're like, she made $1 million in her first fucking year. She got fired as a bartender. I got to listen to this shit. Okay. So like you want to hook people immediately. Now you can back that up with a little bit more of the backstory, but you want to make sure that the first sentence, when the host asks you to introduce yourself, that first sentence grabs people and pulls them in. Okay, that is very fucking important when you are being a guest in somebody else's audience, is that you are being a guest that is helping their audience to stay and listen to this podcast episode, because if they don't listen to the podcast episodes, they're not getting the fucking downloads. You're not doing them any favors. They're not doing you any favors. And all of this is a waste of everybody else's time. So be the kind of guest who can hook. This is really fucking powerful, and this is going to get you on more podcasts. Okay. So you're going to tell stories when you're on that podcast. They're going to ask you questions, and all podcasts are a little bit different. Sometimes they're a little bit more informational based, value based. Sometimes they're a little bit more emotionally driven. Sometimes they're more about stories. Sometimes they're more about training, right? So you've really got to understand the format of the podcast and then adhere to that. But whenever that host gives you the mic, it's very important that you lace in tiny stories. So this is what builds that actual connection point. So say that they ask you, they're like, well, how did you get started? That's like the most basic bitch industry, industry fucking based question ever, no matter what podcast you're on. They always want to know your origin story. Okay. So you want to be able to tie that in such a way that creates an emotional hook. You're not just saying like, well, I graduated from college and then I started this job. It's like, tell a story, okay? Tell me a micro moment of how this actually started for you, right? Instead of being boring and bland and telling, you want to make sure that you're showing people. This is what creates that captivation. If we're not captivating people when we're going in other people's audiences and we're being boring, we're being dull, we're not telling really stories, then we're not going to get people coming and fucking into our world and, being able to add into our email list and get clients. We're definitely not going to be pre-closing clients because we're not hooking people and then keeping them. We need to think about the hook, but we also need to think about retention. And retention comes from you being very animated in your stories, from using visceral experiences, from you telling tiny stories, not big, long ones, but tiny moment stories. This is going to be so much more impactful. Okay. When we tell an overarching story, people get lost in it. People fucking listen. So we want to hook them in. Okay. So retention is the name of the game when we're doing this. So yes, you want to demonstrate your authority through that, but really telling those tiny moment stories is the best way to do that rather than over explaining yourself. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that people can really feel our personality when we're on these podcasts. So we almost want to have like an exaggerated version of that personality, whatever your personality is, even if your personality is that you are the driest person alive, the clear eyes guy, right? So we want to accentuate that dryness completely. Okay. Get into the persona and stick with it. Like whatever your persona is, amplify it out. For me, I'm raw and real and fucking unapologetic. I cuss, I swear like a fucking sailor. I say cunt and alive. I'm gonna lean into that shit, okay? Because you need to be memorable. Okay, if people don't remember you, they don't talk about you. And if they don't talk about you, well, you have no fucking brand, okay? Because your brand is not what the fuck you say it is. It's what other people say about you, okay? So you need to be memorable with that persona, with your core values, with your story. That is really fucking important. So just look at the host and try and be memorable to the host, right? Think about how many fucking interviews this motherfucker has done today and try and stand out, okay? Creating that competitive edge is what's going to help your episode to expand, but also it's going to help the host to want to recommend you to other podcasts, okay? So when you get done with a podcast episode, something always happens at the end. Okay. It's this little back and forth exchange where everyone's like, oh, thank you so much. And if there's anything I can do for you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So if that hot host asks you and it says like, hey, is there anything that I can do for you? The immediate response should be absolutely, actually it would be great. Could you introduce me to some other podcast hosts? I would love to go on more podcasts. Like, do you know anybody else that you think that this story would be a good fit for? Right? A lot of podcast hosts know other podcast hosts. Okay. So this is an exchange. It's good for the goose. It's good for the gander. So when they offer to do something for you, instead of saying, no, thank you. Oh, that's great. No, this is more than enough. Right. Instead of doing that, ask them. Say, hey, do you know anybody else that I could be on their podcast? Okay. Ask them. Because if we don't ask, we don't receive. Right. And this is another way for you to get onto more podcasts, to expand your reach, and to really be able to practice more of those public speaking vibes. And of course, this is how it's going to get you more clients. Does this make sense? Are we following along? Bouncing ball? Everybody got it? Yeah. Good, good, good. Okay. So now let's talk about when you're doing your own podcast. Okay. So that's when we're going on other people's podcasts. Now, say you want to start your own fucking podcast, right? So let me give you some high level views of all the things that you need to be doing on these episodes to ensure that you are closing clients and making your podcast profitable. So from other people's audiences, the profit comes from getting those people onto our audience list. Okay. That's what profit means. When you're going into somebody else's audience, most of the time you're not pitching, right? You're talking about what you do and that's pre-closing people, but really the whole goal is bitch, join my email list. Okay. So we want to get people onto the email list. That's what makes going on other people's podcasts profitable, right? right? Is getting people into your audience. Now, once they're in your audience and they're listening to your podcast, now we really fucking got them, okay? But there's a couple things that we need to be doing on podcast episodes that help people to close faster. Number one, we're still going to stick with that hook, okay? We got to hook people in for that episode. We got to let people know why the fuck they should listen today, right? What are they going to get from this? So we want to hook them in. We can hook them in with a question, a bold fucking statement, a curiosity piquing statement, but we want to make sure people want to listen to the rest of the episode. And that really comes down to titles, right? I'm working through this thing right now in my world because once upon a time when I started doing this podcast, I was definitely in the space of just naming the podcast very cheeky things, okay? Inside jokes. And when this community was a lot smaller and there was only 10,000 people in here and like I knew like everybody and we were all like in the space, everybody got my inside jokes. So, right, like everyone understood what the fuck I was talking about. But now my audience is so much bigger and there's so many more people being recommended over to my podcast that I realized that I needed to make a shift in my titles, right? So my titles needed to become like more explanatory, like how to kind of titles, and really demonstrating what people were going to get out of the episode. This makes it so when you cherry pick the episodes, you're like, oh, this signature program billing secrets. Like I want to fill my signature program. I'm going to click that. So make sure that your titles are desire driven and that you're reflecting that in the first couple, literally the first couple seconds of the podcast episode. The sooner you can get to the point, the sooner you can, dangle that carrot and hook people, the more retention you're going to have. Now, again, repeating the same process here is that we're going to tell little tiny transformational stories on those podcast episodes. Okay. So these can be stories from back in bartender land of the fucking shitty things that you were doing when you were on the dating apps, depending on how your branding goes, right? This can be stories about your clients and the kind of results that they're getting. This can be stories about your personal results. This can be stories about the mistakes that you've made, but we need tiny little visceral stories to keep people interested. Okay. Remember that it's got to be infotainment. If you have the best information in the fucking world on your podcast episode, but you're not entertaining people while you're telling people about it, they're not going to fucking listen. Okay. People's attention spans are so short. Thank you, TikTok. Right. So we need to kind of hook them in. We need to tell them stories that keep them laughing, keep them crying, keep them feeling their motherfucking feelings. And we do this really with highlighting that emotional aspect. Okay. So that can be sad, it can be happy, it can be mad, whatever the fuck it is. But we want to make sure that we're focused on infotainment so that we are getting the retention. Okay. Now, as we go through these things, I know everyone's super obsessed with value, right? It's like value, value, value. You want to make sure that we give value. And that is true. I'm not one of those people that tells you not to give fucking value to your audience. I think that shit's fucking stupid. I give a lot of fucking value to my audience. And that is why I have fucking thousands of fucking clients. Okay. So I think giving value is really fucking important. But I think that giving value in such a way that you're creating open loops is what creates conversion. Okay. So even though I'm going to teach you how to fill up your signature offer with fucking ready to invest high ticket clients on a podcast episode, I'm going to tell you what else you need in order for that to be successful. So it's really important that you put open loops into your podcast. If you don't know what the fucking open loop is, right? An open loop is where we solve one problem. And once that problem is solved, we've created two new problems. And those two new problems are solved by your offer. So for example, if I teach you how to do a fucking grand opening, how to fucking kick things off and create momentum in your fucking audience, you're going to have a natural problem. After you know how to do that, that natural problem is, shit, Nicole, I'm bad at sales. Well, great. Nonstop notifications can help you with that. I'll show you how to do that. Or shit, Nicole, I have no idea how to fucking develop an audience. Well, great, because we're going to get you the audience development secrets that you need inside of Nonstop Notifications, because you're going to get my bonus, Groupie to Goddess, where I show you exactly how I built this 7-figure fucking community start to motherfucking finish. Okay, so even though I'm solving one problem, the problem that's in that title, I'm solving it, but I'm creating two new problems, and those two new problems are solved by my signature offer. Does this make sense? We have to put the open loops in there if we want conversion. Hey, if you just want to make friends and hang out, fine, tell them everything, right? But if you want clients, make sure that you're strategically open looping. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? You can do this with mindset pieces. You can do this with strategy pieces. You can do this with actionable steps, but you need to ensure that you are giving value in such a way that creates a natural ascension into your paid offers, which brings me to my next point. People need to know about your paid offers, okay? Like if people don't know that you sell shit, if people don't know how to fucking get to your paid offers, well, they're not going to be able to figure that out, right? So we want to make sure that in some of the episodes, we are specifically talking about our paid offers. We are specifically giving people a way to get into them, dropping the sales page or getting on to book a call or having them send DMs. We want to make sure that we have offer awareness. Okay. And so this may be at multiple tiers for you. Like, for example, we have a lot of different tiers inside of our programs. So we want to be able to showcase those different tiers. But I don't need to do a podcast episode that's just endlessly talking about all of the tiers. We can do different podcast episodes, like one for each tier, right? Now, length of episode is really important. Okay. You want to vary this up a little bit, or at least have an intentional strategy around it. So we've done 7 minutes to slay podcast episodes. This massively helps us to increase downloads, because chances are if you listen to a 7 minutes to slay, you're going to listen to the episode after it. Okay. Because it was only 7 minutes and like I kind of leave you hanging. And you're like, oh, I want more, Nicole. And then you're going to listen to another podcast episode. So I basically get 2 downloads for the price of 1. Yay, go team, right? And that creates that bingeability. So remember that short form content can be extremely valuable too. We vary our episodes anywhere from between 7 minutes and about an hour. I don't typically go over an hour unless I have like a really involved guest or something, or I'm just on a fucking tirade, right? Which does happen from time to time. So we want to be able to keep that time focus there. Some people listen to podcasts in the car, some people listen to podcasts in the gym, but usually most people are listening to podcasts while they're doing something else. So we want to vary up that time length for them. That's going to help them to digest and binge and do all of the things, which of course creates more downloads. The more downloads we have, the more that those platforms get suggesting us, and the higher our ranking gets when we align with those downloads. Make sense? Okay. So now here's the last thing that you need to know about podcasts, okay? Because this is something I did not know about podcasts. I did not understand this at all. Podcasts don't sell themselves. Okay. I thought it was like, well, if I build a podcast, people are just going to listen to it because there's a podcasting fairy that comes around and drops the podcast in other people's fucking heads. That's not how this works. Okay. If you want to have a podcast, you have to promote it. Okay. If you want to have a successful podcast, you have to promote it. So that means that you're going to need audience development. You're going to need an audience to put that podcast in front of, and then you're going to need to drive traffic to those individual podcast episodes. And you don't drive traffic to the podcast in general. Okay. You drive traffic to a specific episode. Okay. You say, hey, this episode is going to help you with X, Y, and Z. On this podcast episode, I tackled this whole concept of how to get from here to here. Okay. So you are taking that very specific podcast episode that's full of open loops and leading to your signature offer, and you are driving traffic from your existing audience. This is very important. If you don't do this, your podcast will not be fucking successful. So you may be asking yourself, but Nicole, how do I do that? How do I drive traffic to these episodes? Well, the answer is very fucking simple. It's called Content That Crushes. Content That Crushes is my 5 algorithm hacking pieces of content that I use to close my first 10 high ticket clients in my first 6 weeks. But it is also a very, very, very impactful strategy that allows you to fill up your podcast with downloads and with people that are listening from the energy and the frequency of wanting to buy from you. And so this is audience development in a monetization angle. Okay. So Content That Crushes, 5 algorithm hacking pieces of content that you need that you can use on your personal page or in your Facebook group or in other people's Facebook groups in order to drive traffic to your specific episodes using the frequency of transformational fucking stories. So who here wants content that crushes? Drop a unicorn in the comments, because this is the same content strategy that I teach to my clients inside of my $10,000 client attraction program. This is the same exact content strategy that I teach. And guess what? Inside of this Facebook group, you get it for $7 fucking dollars. And the extra bonus here is that once you get content that crushes, you go through that mini course, you get to the end of the mini course, you get to the bonus. And in the bonus, you get to take a wonder vow. Like, what the fuck is a wonder vow, Nicole? A wonder vow is a short little video that you leave on one of the strategically aligned posts inside of this Facebook group that allows us to turn on your post approval. So that means that you can post in this group anytime you want. You pay $7 one fucking time, go through Content That Crushes, take the mini course, and then you can use my audience as your own to drive traffic to your podcast episodes. So you can start putting out your Content That Crushes and fill up your downloads, because there are 35,000 fucking entrepreneurs in here. Some of those people want to listen to your fucking podcast, and especially because you're going to do a great job hooking them. You're going to do a great job with retention. You're going to tell transformational stories, and you're going to provide fucking value, and you're going to open loop to your signature offer so that you can close clients. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Okay, right? So drop those unicorns. We'll send Content That Crushes over to you so that you can get access to that. But I'm heading over to Money Making Unicorns right now. So As you click onto Content That Crushes, you're also going to receive an offer to join Money Making Unicorns. This is my $47 a month membership where we go dive deep into strategies. It is strategy based. There's no mindset in there. All the mindset stuff is inside of Nonstop Notifications, my client attraction program. But we do give you those foundational money making strategies to help you to get your head around all this shit in the online world. So it's in bite-sized chunks, right? So today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth around how you can start your own podcast and ensure that that is being monetized in the highest and best way. And of course, on Tuesdays, you get to ask me questions live, right? So that Q&A is about to get started inside of Money Making Unicorns right now. So get out there, do all of the fucking money making things, and we'll see your bitch asses next Tuesday. Remember that today is the day that the Wonder Retreat starts. So if you haven't gotten your ticket to the Wonder Retreat, what the fuck are you doing? We start at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard today, where we are going to show you how to build your high ticket closing system from start to motherfucking finish in real time. This is not a theory-based workshop. This is an action-taking workshop because, of course, action takers get results. All right, guys, you know the drill. Get out there, do all of the wonderful things, and we'll see your bitch asses next Tuesday. Bye.